Today we have something a little bit unique. This is a Sears Silvertone tube radio, AM of course, and what makes this unique is it's a battery operated farm radio. Runs off of a 1.5 volt and 90 volt battery pack like what you see here. Of course this one's dead, but this was inside of an old radio that I recently repaired for someone and they didn't want the battery back, so okay, thanks. What makes this radio even more unique is it was made in the 1950s, about 1952 to be exact. These battery operated farm radios are pretty common up until the 40s, but by 1950 or so most areas had received electrification. However, there were still some parts of the country that didn't receive electricity until a little bit later. In fact, there's a rural community about 30 or so miles away from me that, from what I'm told, didn't receive electricity until about 1953 or so. But at any rate, these farm radios that run off of batteries from the 1950s seem to be rare in comparison to the older models. In fact, this is the only one that I've ever had my hands on, and I'm sure this is one of the last tube type battery operated table radios that was made. Now, there were tube type portable radios made up until about 1960 or so, but those would usually operate on either 120 volts AC or a self-contained set of batteries. And another reason why I feel like this was one of the last battery operated table radios is because about 2 years after this set was made, the first transistor radios were produced, and it didn't take long before the solid state transistor radios started blowing the tube radios out of the water. And the main reason they did that is because the transistorized portable radios would last a lot longer on a set of batteries than one of these tube sets would. And the typical portable transistor radio operated off of a 9 volt battery or a number of D-cell batteries to equal 9 volts, and there were some that ran off of a 22 volt battery. But for the most part, once the transistor radios came on the scene, it didn't take long for the battery operated tube sets to disappear. Okay, enough babbling about that. Let's see if we can get this radio to work. I've already connected it to the battery eliminator and it's stone cold dead, and generally these battery sets are usually pretty simple to work on, so unless some idiot got the polarity crossed up and blew the tube filaments, we should be okay. Okay, here's the chassis, and judging by the model number prefix 528, this set was built by Warwick Electronics, which supplied a good bit of the electronics to Sears. Okay, this set, circuit-wise, is similar to the older sets, but features the newer miniature tubes, 1R5, 1U4, 1U5, and 3V4 if I'm not mistaken. And it has the miniature IF transformers that are prone to the silver mica disease. The older radios usually had the octal-based tubes and the larger IF transformers. Okay, this set is easy to remove from the cabinet. You just remove the knobs, remove 3 bolts from the underside of the case, and the whole shebang just slides out, speaker and all. Here's the underside of the chassis. As you can see, there's not much to this. Okay, since the set is totally dead, I'm going to check a few things first. First thing I'm going to do is check the continuity of the power switch. This is a dual switch here, one side for the filament, one side for the B+ voltage. And if any one of these sections are non-functional, then that will obviously kill the radio. I hope the switch is not bad. I'd hate to have to round one up somewhere. Okay, the switch is good and all the tube filaments check good, so we're on a roll here. Now we'll connect the power supply and check some voltages and see what the trouble is. Now I will point out one thing that I don't like, and I'm probably going to do something about it. Notice this external antenna lead here. These sets didn't have built-in loop antennas since they were typically used in rural areas that were likely a good ways away from a radio station. Most customers who had these sets had them connected to an outside antenna, but notice how the external antenna lead is soldered directly to the antenna coil. There's no kind of strain relief or anything here, and I don't really like that because these coils are very fragile. It doesn't take much to break them, and 60 years of father time doesn't help that situation any. So, you know, it wouldn't take much if somebody were to accidentally get tripped up on the antenna lead or yank the antenna lead or any number of possibilities. It could destroy this coil form. So I think what I'm going to do is mount a terminal strip somewhere in a convenient location, run a wire from the terminal strip to the coil, and attach our antenna lead to the terminal strip. That way, if there's ever a mishap with this set, the worst it'll do is break the terminal strip and not tear this coil up. Now, believe me, stuff like this happens. And I base that on the number of television sets that I've repaired for people where they rip the cable connector out of the back of the set. You wouldn't think people would allow stuff like that to happen, but it happens more than you realize. Okay, we have the set connected to the battery eliminator. We have 1.5 volts on the filament and about 106 volts on the B+, so that's good. So now that we know that the radio is getting power, we'll make some voltage measurements. Okay, since this thing's dead as a doornail, we're going to start in the audio circuit. Let's check our plate and screen grid voltages on our audio output tube. And we have Zippo there. We have 100 volts here on the, looks like the screen grid. But it looks like we have nothing on the plate. Let's verify that I'm not making an error concerning the pinout. If there's no error, then the problem most likely is an open audio output transformer. Okay, well that is indeed the plate. And generally when you have voltage on the screen grid and nothing on the plate of the output tube, then that usually means the audio output transformer primary winding is open. We have this capacitor here that connects from plate to ground. That's a tone compensation capacitor. It also helps keep RF off the plate. And I've already checked from here to ground and there's no shorts. This capacitor is not shorted. I have seen these capacitors short, mainly in AC operated sets, and take the output transformer with it, but that doesn't appear to be the case here. And checking across the primary winding of the transformer with the ohm meter, our suspicions are doubly confirmed. The primary winding is open. But never fear, you know, it's nothing to worry about. We've got enough junk around here that we can probably come up with a suitable output transformer for this set. Okay, just for testing purposes, I dug up this speaker out of a 5-tube AC operated set that, as you can see, has the audio output transformer already mounted on it. I have it clipped into circuit, and I would like to test the radio just to see where we stand. Now, the impedance of, say, like a 35C5 or 50C5 output tube is different than the impedance of one of these little battery operated tubes, but it should still do good enough to tell us whether or not it's going to work or not, and to kind of give us an idea what else might be wrong with the set. I think I have an old battery-operated chassis here somewhere that I can snitch an output transformer off of if need be. So let's give it a try. Well, that's not too bad. Okay, here's an old chassis out of an RCA farm radio from about 1939. This was a radio that I purchased for the cabinet, and it has an output transformer similar to what we need, so let's pull the transformer and hope it's good. And fortunately, this transformer appears to be good. We have continuity across the primary winding and the secondary winding. Well, we might have gotten lucky. Went to unsolder the old output transformer, and the B+ lead, the red one, it basically just broke off. I don't even think it was soldered very well. And I stripped the wires back, took a resistance measurement, reading 450 ohms. So I think this is just a case of poor connections. I'm going to clean these wires up a little bit better and resolder them, and that makes me happy. Anytime I don't have to do a major cut and paste job, so to speak, I'm happy.
The problems that we face going forward.
Hey, well, that sounds a lot better.
State of the Union trip to a red state.
And this dial string is
leave the world behind. And there is something about an industry-leading unlimited... certified to Mercedes-Benz standards, while you enjoy a carefree ownership experience. But while the mileage is unlimited,
next we'll touch up the alignment.
Certified pre-owned sales event.
That ought to do it.
The idea that we're spending all these resources.
And here's the terminal strip mounted on the rear of the chassis to help prevent damaging the antenna coil from stress on the antenna leads. And you know, it just occurred to me the whole time I was testing this set, I had the outside antenna connected to the ground terminal instead of the antenna terminal. So it should perform much better now.
It's raining all over the world.
How many times I've wondered.
Plan Servicios Internacionales Extra, oferta y cobertura no disponibles en todas partes. You're on the air.
Change my word to Christian. I'm calling for the scripture word of the week and the word.
With pride, City Singer!
Forming.
Stop it. Legal 41.
He was a big man.
Video all over the world, and they're responding.
35 producers to fill a segment, and it's had to fire back.
Believer? Special offers for free shipping.
There's WSM. Not bad since it's not even dark outside yet.
Him echo the sentiments of. And we're going to go after him with every.
Not bad at all.
AC! Come on, do AC!
Well, here we are back together. That's probably tuned to WDIA. The only thing I have to do to this set is restring the dial, but
break it down.
Since I don't have any dial string, I can't do that now, but I can still tune it, but it's just
A few minutes, and then there was a big in your portfolio.
a little slippery.
We talk about the CDC just out with new stats, but the rate of deaths is lower and slightly fewer states. Look at me now!
Heavy on his shoulder.
The Federal Reserve Bank.
Change all this if he'd have done one thing.
Windows, dash, fender, wash, rims, and tires. Today, get a $20 certificate for a deluxe.
It's in jail for speeder in the stock, and they're in the lowest part of the dungeon.
$50 a day, $3,000 a day, or $9,000 a day.
Legend. It's 24 till 6. I'm Mike Terry. Here's Randy O'Brien, a check of real-time traffic. We have Highway 70 south at Old Dixie Boulevard with a fender bender on the west side. We also have I-65 north at I-440 there in Berry Hill, just before I-65, the junction there. Bit of slowdown from all of those lanes as they're trying to cloverleaf through there. We have Thompson Lane at 100 Oaks, the fender bender still clearing, and 12th Avenue south at Division still clearing. Congestion-wise, we still have quite a bit of slowdown on I-24 eastbound as you make your way past 440. The junction there with Harding Place and Briley Parkway, all those exits very backed up, lots of slowdown. And I-24 east at I-40 east coming off the southeast side of the loop there, very slow for us still. You find out who your real friends are when it's time to move. Call True Friends Moving Company, 855-MOVE-615. Follow them on Facebook at True Friends Moving Company. I'm Randy O'Brien with your 650 AM WSM real-time traffic. Nashville's most accurate and dependable forecast.
Okay, well that's about all I've got for this video.
John Weatherby overnight tonight.
We have the 52 Silvertone farm set back up and running again.
Partly cloudy.
Now, one thing you might notice is the volume turned down. We're getting a little filter capacitor hum. That's due to the battery eliminator. In fact, it does this on both battery eliminators that I have, and both of them are vintage units. Maybe one day I'll make a video on how to build a more modern battery eliminator with voltage regulation and all that good stuff. And if you don't want to build a battery eliminator, or if you don't want to buy one, you can still power these sets off of conventional batteries. On these particular models like this, you need 10 9-volt batteries wired in series, and you don't need to buy the expensive ones. The cheap dollar store variety will work fine because the current drain on the 90-volt line is not that much. For the filaments, you need a couple of D-cell batteries wired in parallel for greater current capacity, and on those you do need to use good batteries. And the filament batteries will run dead before the 90-volt batteries will.
I was actually taken hostage a couple years ago.
Okay, there you go. That ought to do it. Thanks for watching, and more to come later.
Questionable. It's much more likely that if she is dead, that she